Hello. Oh my goodness. Okay, first of all, look at my mug. It is adorable. Hello. My name is Michaela. This is Meekela Reads. I live here, and for the last 3-4 years, I have done this tag every single year, and so it's practically tradition at this point on this here channel. Today we are going to be going through the mid-year freakout book tag. If you do not know, the mid-year freakout book tag is a book tag. It was created by two booktubers. I'll leave them linked down below. I'm not sure if they still make videos, but credit where credit's due. It is a book tag that people across the booktube, across the internet do at this time of year, every year, just to check in, to touch base, to see what's what for the first half of the year. I have read 46 books so far this year, and if I'm going to be honest, most of those have been in the last 2 months, but it does mean that we've got somewhat slim pickings this year. So I'm going to do my best to try and keep our answers diverse, not use the same books for every answer, and we're just gonna have a good time. You and I, we're just gonna catch up, we're just gonna chat. It's been a hot minute since I've done a sit down and chat video, so I'm excited. So without further ado, let us jump into the mid-year freakout book tag for 2024. Question number 1 is the best book that you have read so far this year. Now, please don't click away immediately. But it is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I'm aware that this book is incredibly hyped, and I'm aware that it's got its issues, it's got its flaws, but it is, to this day, the only book this year that has had me in such a vice grip that it made me actually read it again immediately. But I just had such a fun time reading this book. If you don't know, Fourth Wing is the story of a war college. It is to train up people to fight the war that's been going on for a very long time, and we are following the dragon riders in this story, and we're following Violet Sorrengail, who is thrown into this dragon riding college, and she just has to survive. I was here for the romance, I was here for the dragon politics. Overall, I just had a really good time. This one is gonna come back in the video at some point. Apologies, but like I said, slim pickings, 46 books, and most of those were graphic novels. Question number 2 is the best sequel that you have read so far this year. This one for me is a toss-up between Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree and The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. I say it's a toss-up because this one is technically a prequel, so it doesn't quite fit the tag question, but I enjoyed it much more than I enjoyed The Hero of Ages. I liked this one honestly a lot more than I liked Mistborn. Please don't come for me. But out of the series, the Mistborn series, this book number 2 was my favorite. Bookshops and Bone Dust is the prequel for Legends and Lattes, which is a cozy fantasy novel, and it follows Viv as she sets up a coffee shop in this little town. The prequel follows Viv as she's still doing all of her adventuring and all of her orc quest mission things, but she is forced to slow down and set up in this little coastal town for a little while her body heals. I had such a lovely time reading this one. It was lovely to jump back into the world. It wasn't as good as Legends and Lattes, I am going to admit that, but it was still quite good. The Well of Ascension, on the other hand, I don't quite know how to describe what it is I liked more about this, but I think it probably has to do with the fact that the world was a bit more established. We learn a lot more about the characters. The character development in this one is what mostly held me there, more than the first one. Those are my best sequels so far this year. Question number 3 is a new release that you haven't read yet. The newest release that I haven't read is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson makes a lot of appearances in this video. This is Brandon Sanderson's latest secret project novels that he has released. I believe the main character in this one is the narrator from Tress of the Emerald Sea, which is one of my favorite books that I read when I read it, but I picked this one up recently because I have recently been on a Brandon Sanderson kick, if you could not already tell. I am gonna hold on to this one for a little while just because, like I said, I've read a lot recently. I'm a little bit burnt out, but when my brain is back online and we're back functioning at full capacity, we will jump back into the fantasy series, but this is the newest release that I have not read yet. Question number 4 is your most anticipated release for the rest of the year. Normally, I'm not on top of what's coming out. However, I am on top of it this year. I do have some new releases that I'm excited and anticipated for the rest of the year. There is 2. Number 1 is Somewhere Beyond the Sea. This is the sequel, I think it is, to The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which I loved so much. It's cozy, it is a fantasy. I believe it's a sequel. Watch this space. I'm actually not sure. But the second one is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana, and this is the second book of hers. She also wrote The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which is yet again another cozy witchy fantasy. I predict that A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping is also going to be a cozy witchy fantasy, which I'm so very excited for. There are a few others coming out. I know there's a new Matt Haig book coming out. I'm forever waiting for the Doors of Stone to come out, but I'm not quite sure if I'm going to read those and or if they're going to come out. So these two currently are my most anticipated for the rest of the year. We are rapidly losing daylight and we're here for a good time, not a long time. So I'm actually gonna just make us a little bit brighter. Question number 5 is your biggest disappointment for the year so far. I'm not here to be controversial, but hear me out. Hear me out. House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas is the 3rd Crescent City book in the series. I had a good time. I enjoyed the book. I took a whole 2 days off of work to read this book. I had a good time. I didn't put it down, flew through it. I had fun reading this book. After much deliberation and reflection, I really do feel like there were too many conveniently placed answers, conveniently integrated solutions and resolutions to quite a few questions that I've had for many years, enough that it's somewhat not destroyed but impaired my enjoyment of the Sarah J Maas books. Again, not to say wasn't fun, wasn't good. I had a good time reading it. I just want to make that clear. I did enjoy. I just in hindsight am somewhat disappointed with how the book played out, how the ending happened. In the end, quite disappointing. But it's not the only disappointment I had this year, unfortunately. There's been a few, but the two that I wanted to point out most, Crescent City and also Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I expected to like this one so much more than what I did. This is more of like an academia romantasy. We do follow a romance between Iris and Roman, but it is also set in a time where there is a war happening between gods, and it kind of feels like it's set around like that World War II time. I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. I wasn't as invested as I thought I was going to be. A lot of the world building felt really choppy here and there. I still don't understand what any of the conflicts with the gods or anything are. I don't know if that is a product of me listening to it, because reading and listening for me can sometimes be hit and miss, but I have listened to fantasy series before and managed to grasp the world and what's going on, and I just couldn't. For this one, just a bit disappointing. But I'll leave it there for the disappointments. And we'll move on from the controversial question. Number 6 is the biggest surprise so far this year. I've actually just got a genre that is a surprise for me, but I'll be specific. It is the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy, and then just hockey romance as a genre. The Off-Campus series starts with The Deal. The series as a whole follows 4 members of this college hockey team and their various romances. Reading these books is the first time in probably the last 12 months at the time of reading it that I have wanted to stay up and felt like I needed to stay up until like 1, 2 in the morning to just inhale and binge read a book. So yeah, hockey romance in general is my biggest surprise this year. Did not expect that whatsoever. Question number 7 is your newest favorite author. Now, I don't have an answer for question 7. So we're just gonna go off script and I am gonna talk to you once more about Becky Chambers. I can't remember what year I read A Psalm for the Wild Bird and A Prayer for the Crown Shy, but this year I reread The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which I have read before. I read this several years ago. It was in like before 2020 times that I read this, and I loved it. I had a really good time. I really enjoyed Becky Chambers' writing, but I never continued the series because I didn't like that the second one didn't follow the usual main characters. I went back and reread it with the intention to continue the series, and I'm so glad that I did, and I just really forgot how much I love Becky Chambers' writing. So yes, my answer for this is Becky Chambers. I'm just remembering that she is my favorite author, really. Question number 8 is your newest fictional crush. I've read a lot of romance this year. To be completely honest with you, all of the male main leads and some of the female main leads that I've read are all just blending together, all into one. And so, instead, my newest fictional crush happens to be none other than our lovely dragon Tananark from the Fourth Wing series. I told you it would come back. I told you we weren't done with it. Is it weird for me to have a crush on a dragon? Probably. And so I'm actually just gonna blend this and question 9, which is your new favorite character, and say for both that Tananark is both, or Tan, as he is known. Tan is one of the dragons in the Fourth Wing series. The reason I like him so much, he is so wholly himself. He does not care about any of the humans. He does not care about anyone else except for him and his person. And I love that so much. His banter is hilarious. He's snarky. He does not take anyone's So because that was 8 and 9, question number 10 is a book that made you cry. You will see it upcoming, so spoilers for future videos, but A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers is a book that has recently made me cry. I don't know what it is about Becky Chambers' writing. It just gets me every time. I didn't love this one as much as I did like the first one, but in saying that, the first one didn't necessarily make me cry, but this one did, so I don't know. But yes, spoilers, this one did make me cry. Watch this space. On the other hand, question 11 is a book that made you happy, which is really hard because there's quite a few books that I've read this year that have made me happy. A lot of them have been romances, but that's been more like an escapism happy. A book that actually like made me happy in my soul was Eliza and Her Monsters. This is by Francesca Zappia, and it is a middle grade, I would say more young adult than middle grade, and it follows the story of Eliza, who writes essentially like this universe's version of webcomics online, and she lives a secret double life as a very, very popular author, whilst also being the awkward and socially isolated person at school. The reason this made me happy is because it came out of nowhere, and I did not expect it to talk to a very, very young version of myself who connected so closely with the main character of this story. It was so good. It made me so happy. The story was predictable in a way that felt comfortable, but still also in a way that it didn't make it boring. The young adult aspect of it didn't make me feel like I had like fully grown out of it. And I just know that, again, a younger version of Meekela would have wanted to be Eliza so badly. It just warmed a little section of my soul that I didn't know needed warming. It was like a little hug for younger Meekela. I did that thing where you like sit there and stare into the distance for like a hot minute after you finish the book because you're like, what do I do? How do I function without this book now? Question number 12 is the most beautiful book that you have bought or read this year. There are many ways that I could interpret this question. Beautiful in the writing sense, beautiful in the aesthetic sense, beautiful in the book itself, like special editions and stuff. But the way that I'm going to interpret this is by what it says on the tin. A beautiful book, aesthetically, to my eyeballs. So I picked a graphic novel series, and again, if you've been around recently, I'm very sorry because I keep harping on about this, but it is the Witch graphic novel series. Are we shocked? Not at all. This is a small portion of them. I have I have 31 of them. This is 5. This is the graphic novel series. This is the story of my childhood. This was my like special interest area, my hyperfixation for, I want to say a good like 6 years of my life. And back in those days, we didn't have the internet to share all of these experiences with. So you're getting it now. I'm very sorry. You're getting the belated, delayed high school Meekela hyperfixation sharing. Feel free to skip ahead if you would like to. The reason I've picked these for the most beautiful book that I've read is because the illustrations are pretty good and they continue to get better as the series progresses, and you can see it across the arc and across the journey. I will say there are some sections that are probably like a wee bit raunchy for young high school Meekela's eyes to have been seeing, but it's a product of its time. Magical girls and magical girl transformations were very, very normal for that period. So I'm giving it a pass, but just this once. The only one I'm missing now is 32. I cannot find 32 anywhere. It doesn't exist. I think it was released for like a month or two before it was discontinued as a series. So there are very limited copies of 32 around. If you see one, let me know. Please and thanks. Question number 13, and the last question for this book tag here today, is what books do I need to read by the end of the year? If we're not talking about the 70 something books that I own that I haven't read yet, I am instead going to talk to a spread that I have in my bullet journal that is my 24 in 24. If I'm gonna be honest, I've made it pretty far in my 24 in 24 this year. Normally I don't make it this far in like my selected books for the year that I want to read, but I've done pretty well this year. The books that are remaining that I have left to read include Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, Earthsea, the first 4 books of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin, Starsight by Brendan Sanderson, which is just cursed at this point, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, David Sedaris's Dress Your Family in Corduroy and Denim, Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb / other Robin Hobb books, and don't come for me, I don't want to talk about it, but the most cursed book of all cursed books for me on my TBR at this point, The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Will I ever read it? Who knows? I did give it a good hot go last year. Kirsty and I tried to read it. We did not get through it. I'm at the point where I'm gonna have to reread it because I don't remember anything that happens in this first 200 pages. Now, In the true form, in the true original version of the tag, this was not included, but Katie Marie, who did this book tag a couple of days ago, included a section at the end that I really liked, and so I'm going to do the same thing, and that is to just do a bit of a booktube shout out, because I have not done a booktube shout out since that was a thing several years ago. Some of the bigger channels that I have been watching and enjoying lately are Carrie from Carrie Can Read, my darling friend Ali from Alison Pages. Even though she's currently on hiatus, I still watch some of those videos. Sid Bookworm, Lexi / Newly Nova, and Throne of Pages. Some of the small channels that I have been watching and really enjoying lately are Katie Marie, who I've taken this question from, thank you. Kat from Live with Kat, who I have been watching since her channel started and her videos are so good. Chloe from Chloe the Pain, and Jen from Jen's Bookshelf. I will leave all of their channels down below if you want to go check them out, but also let me know if there's anyone else I should be watching. I haven't been watching as much booktube content lately, and I've noticed that that is a problem, and so please shower me with the booktube content, please and thanks. I don't know if I said this up top as well, but like if you've done this tag, let me know. I will go check out your video. But that is all I had for you today, just in time because our light is fading. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having a fantastic day or night or whatever time it is where you are in the world, and I will see you maybe next week, maybe the week after. We shall see. Goodbye.